India's border pivot continues. For decades, the focus was on the northwestern front, on Pakistan. But now it's on the other side. The focus is on China. Reports say the Indian Army is making a big change. It is converting an area headquarters into a core headquarters. I know you will have questions. After all, it's a very technical change. But do know this. If true, this is a massive upgrade. And it's all about focusing more on the LAC. That's the line of actual control between India and China. Think of it as a de facto border, LAC. Now we come to the details. The Army's Central Command has an area headquarters in Bareilly. It's called Headquarters Uttar Bharat. And what does it do? Mostly peacetime activities like administration and training. At first, the Bareilly headquarters had just one brigade, plus a few scouts battalions. Then came the clashes with China. So the army added more teeth. 3 brigades and 1 infantry division were put under the Bareilly headquarters. Now, to put that in context, 1 brigade has around 3,000 soldiers. So 3 brigades is more than 9,000 soldiers. But the army is not done yet. Like I said, the next step is reportedly in the works to turn the Bareilly headquarters into a full-fledged corps. And what difference would that make? Well, a corps is largely self-sufficient. It has its own artillery, its own army engineers, and its own aviation assets. So basically, a corps can conduct operations on its own. It also has the resources to do so. Reports say the new formation will be called the 18 Corps. It is designed to include 3 divisions. Again, to put that in context, 1 division can have 15,000 soldiers, 15,000 troops. So the 18 Corps could have up to 45,000 soldiers. And their focus will be on the LAC. That's the pivot I mentioned at the start. Before the Galwan clashes, the army had 5 corps focusing on the LAC. Pretty soon, that will be 7. First in line was the One Strike Corps based in Mathura. Until 2020, it focused on the border with Pakistan. Now it focuses on China. Next up is the Bareilly headquarters. It's being turned from a peacetime formation to the 18 Corps. So the army's message is quite clear. It wants to be prepared along the LAC. Which brings us to the bigger question. What's the current situation there? The Indian Army chief gave an assessment last month. He says it's stable but sensitive.
The situation along the line of actual control, I would say, remains stable but is sensitive. In the last 1 year or thereabouts, we haven't had any more friction areas in this. In terms of what is our preparedness levels, I would say our deployment remains robust as well as balanced.
What does that mean? Things may not get worse or escalate. At the same time, it's not business as usual at the border. It's been like that for a while now. After the Galwan clashes, both sides deployed a lot of firepower. India has deployed some 68,000 soldiers. China too has around 60,000 soldiers. They've also made structures near the LAC, structures that can house up to 120,000 soldiers. So the idea is quite clear. Beijing is ready to rush troops at a moment's notice. India too has been busy. Whether it's building roads or tunnels or bridges, again, the idea is connectivity to make sure that the LAC is accessible to Indian soldiers at all times. So the militaries are locked and loaded. What about the diplomats? What about talks and negotiations? Well, the last military-level talks took place in October, the 20th round since Galwan, October last year. Both sides said the talks were frank and constructive. They also agreed to maintain peace at the border. Great words, but no progress. Because at several points near the LAC, disagreements remain. So de-escalation has not happened yet, which brings us to the political leadership. Prime Minister Modi met President Xi Jinping in August last year. Both men were in Johannesburg for the BRICS summit. They agreed on speedy disengagement. We've seen more conversations after that. This week, the foreign ministers had an interaction in Munich. I guess that's positive. We're talking about 2 nuclear-armed giants in the same neighborhood, so we cannot afford volatility. We need to contain the standoffs. But tell that to China. Reports say they're moving Chinese nationals into villages near Arunachal Pradesh. Why? To provoke India. Which is why New Delhi remains wary of the LAC. It's like China's poking machine. They know that India is emerging as an economic powerhouse. They also know that investors are leaving China. So the LAC is their way of pulling India down, sort of like keeping New Delhi in check. We may not see sustained aggression, but we can't rule out sporadic clashes. Hence the Army Chief's assessment, stable but sensitive.